So, we left off in the middle of investigation. I don't remember exactly what I was doing. I would guess a new location recently opened up. Yes, it did. Okay. And so I presume I'm going to go there. So... A brief summary of my cluelessness and what I'm thinking so far. Usually, when a case from the past is brought up, or from the deep past in the final case of an Ace Attorney game, which is not the final one, we actually have one more as the final one. We started thinking ahead to the next case already because that's more interesting. You tend to find that, there's a precedent for this, you tend to find that the result of that previous deep in the past case was wrong. So... Of course, I don't remember what DL6 was all about, or SL9, but anyway, so I'm guessing that it is not actually Kazuma's father, Mr. Asogi, who did the professor murders 10 years ago. So, I just kind of, for some reason, I'm like, decided while talking to wipe up dust that's under my computer. We're just going to find that that's wrong. And as a result, well, as kind of an implication of that, it was Sherlock Holmes, or Sherlock Sholmes, that sort of implicated him. Because John H. Wilson wrote a story about a case he solved with Sherlock Sholmes called The Hound of the Baskervilles, which it's now been revealed that the professor killed the nobleman of London with a hound. So, The Hound of the Baskervilles, the story that Iris wrote, appears to be based off of the story of the professor case, which Sherlock Sholmes had to have had a hand in order for it to be a story that John H. Wilson had, that he had in his collection. So, if it's wrong, and the professor is not really the one who did it, then Sherlock Sholmes got it wrong. Now, Sherlock Sholmes also got pinned Soseki-san, but his excuse would be, I actually give him a san. Excuse would be that he was just figuring out the person who was at the scene that they were looking for. He didn't bother figuring out who actually committed the crime. And it could be the case with Mr. Asogi. Sherlock Sholmes wasn't figuring out who committed the murders. He was just trying to identify some person that the police was asking for based on who was at this place at this time. And it's further hinted at that the verdict was wrong in that Susato's father tried to put in a defense, but he got in big trouble. So, we're going to go back to, like, a previously failed defense. If one of the main characters tried to defend a client, it becomes extremely likely that that client was innocent. And how the case was really hostile, it didn't really consider even listening to the defense lawyer at all in that case. So, it's assumed that, Kazuma's father was executed on false charges. Sherlock Sholmes was involved. Wilson was involved. Wilson might have known it was false charges or something because the British government sent somebody to kill him and succeeded. They have not killed Sherlock Sholmes yet, but Sherlock Sholmes is really hush-hush about the whole thing. He doesn't want any information disseminated about the case. There was a list of names: Eishin, Susato, Kazuma, and John H. Wilson. But they don't really seem to have a whole lot in common as far as... At first I thought it was a hit list at the beginning of this game. But Eishin wasn't on a hit list, she was the hitter. So... yeah. Now, Sherlock Holmes did have a motivation to fake Kazuma's death. And that might be because Herlock Sholmes thought that Kazuma was going to get murdered once Kazuma got to Britain. And so he was trying to protect him by doing this, which is another kind of complication in the works. So a lot of complications here. I don't really have any good ways, theories, quote unquote, to put it all together. To come up with what exactly was going to happen in the last case, because just with any case, there's got to be a murder, and it's got to be a defendant, and we have to defend them, right? And I don't really have any idea who that person's going to be. I mean, you could throw out names, like maybe it's going to be Susato, or Susato's father, or whatever the judge's name is. I know it starts with an S. Or somebody like that. But it's a lot of possibilities for what this defendant could be, and I don't really I haven't nailed down who it's going to be. I don't even know who the defendant's going to be in the fourth case yet. Okay, let's actually continue with the game and not waste a bunch of time, or any bunch more time, that is. Barclay Prison is on the outskirts of London, backing onto a lonely burial ground. Its 4 high outer walls loom quietly before us in the fog. Having requested a meeting, we were shown to the governor's office in the watchtower. Nice clock. Is that parrot in the cage going to say, remember DL6? Except it's not a parrot, it's a toucan, but, you know, cut me some slack. This place is full of hardened criminals. I cannot remember the last time a civilian was doomed here. And you didn't want to talk to an inmate, but to me? Well, this man's lonely. Do you ken who I am? I'm the governor, Barley Clayton. Oh, yes, it's a pleasure. I'm Runosuke Naruhodo, defense lawyer. An Easterner, I see. Does that mean... Yes, I'm a visiting student of law from the Empire of Japan. Japan? Did you say Japan? Yes. I happen to be sweating too because it's really hot in the room I'm wearing, and I'm wearing a very hot shirt. Did I say I was wearing the room? Oh well. So there's no any of your kind in here, laddie. Maybe you should try the prison next door, eh? I didn't notice another prison next door, sir. Anyway, we came to ask you some questions about... I don't like to be so direct, but... I had no intention of speaking with the likes of you suspicious-looking Easterners. Now get out of my hair. So as soon as he finds out we're from Japan, he reacts like this. That surely means... I think it's because of the professor case. Well, we do know that the person who went missing was the person who failed to execute the professor. Now, he might have done so on purpose, because he knew that the person executed for the crime was actually innocent. And somebody killed him because they want to cover that up. And they figured out that he knew that. You could also argue that they're further trying to cover up that the execution was botched, but that already came out just before this guy was murdered, except maybe he was during the case. I don't know. Because we don't know, when this guy was murdered. So it might have been murdered during case 3. I've already jumped to the conclusion that he's been murdered. You think so too? "10 years ago, Genshin Asogi, also known as the Professor, was incarcerated at this prison. And then, after his execution, he apparently re-emerged from his grave in the cemetery behind the prison. I might have known. You're sniffling around the boot case, aren't ya? Your agents, eh? Part of the professor's great web, no doubt. No, not at all. We're just... Go on with it. Yeah, before I punch your lights out. We're going. Clearly, the ghost of that killer still haunts this place. We're not going to get anywhere here. Unless we can somehow prove that this man that there's nothing suspicious about us. Governor Clayton. What are you thinking, Miss Susato? I feel sure that name came up in conversation recently somewhere. I was wondering if whoever mentioned him might have some idea to help us. Come to think of it, I had the same feeling. Well, I think we're going to have to talk to somebody first, but we can try this. Governor Clayton, could I at least show you this? How many times can one man turn his back on you in a single conversation? I said Groot. Then why did you give me that button? I don't remember Lord Strongheart bringing up Governor Clayton. So I don't know why I'm here exactly. Almost back. Before I talk to Susato's dad... Okay. That's Professor Mikotoba over there. Oh, hello you two. I was just taking a moment to catch up on the world now that I'm unpacked. But where's Judge Jigoku? Well, he's not the relaxing sort. He's taken himself to pay off his respects to all the legal bigwigs. Having just arrived in the country today, goodness, he is full of energy. Professor, you mentioned something before, about how you'd known the prison governor at Barclay Prison. Oh, Governor Clayton, you mean? So is it the same man? Father, we must speak with the governor. But he refused to talk to us. He said we were suspicious Easterners. Well, I'm sure if I accompanied you, it would be a very different story. Oh, would you? That would be wonderful. If you have time now. Sadly, as you can see, I'm very busy at the moment. In other words, I don't want to talk to Governor Clayton. Busy drinking coffee on a comfortable settee. Now, I have rather a lot to prepare for tomorrow, you know. Sorry. I didn't say that out loud, did I? You Mikotobas are alarmingly good at reading people's thoughts. Or could it be that you Naruhodos are alarmingly bad at hiding your thoughts? Let's not fall out now, I have an idea. He's gonna write a note. What's he writing on that piece of paper? Here's a letter of introduction for you. Hopefully when he sees my name, he'll change his tune. Thank you. Good luck then. Oh, it looks like this is some sort of steamship ticket. The SS Grouse. First class cabin 001. Yokohama departure, 11th of September. London arrival, 1st of November. Ah, that's the boat that Professor Mikotoba and Judge Gyoku came from Japan, isn't it? Came on from Japan, that is. Well, I think it's called at Dunkirk. I think it called at Dunkirk on the north coast of France for a night before finally arriving in Dover. I think it's been almost a year since we arrived in Dover on the SS Beria. It seems a shame not to keep your ticket as a memento of your trip, don't you think? No. Yes, I agree. I have mine safely in my diary. And I keep mine in my wallet, so I have it with me at all times. How thick is your wallet, though? Oh, well, how strange. Where could it have gone? Are you like this on purpose, Mr. Naruhodo? Did I imagine it, or was that comment accompanied by a little sigh? Bit off corner is something I can examine. This is what English looks like to Japanese people. Professor Mikotoba has wonderful handwriting, doesn't he? Moving on. This dark-suited man is not in the least bit untrustworthy. Is it just me, or does that make me sound extremely untrustworthy? I do wish he at least called you a nice young man. I'm really not sure that would help. Well, I presume this is going to be very useful despite its apparent uselessness. Because of plot convenience. If you just cast your eyes over this Governor Caden... Was I calling him Clayton the whole time? There's no L. I just now noticed that. Anyway, what's this then? You cannae pull the wool over my eyes, you good-for-nothing Japanese student. Mikotoba. That's young Jock from the forensics laboratory. That Mikotoba? Yes, exactly, him. Oh dear. Perhaps I should have said something sooner. I'm Yujin Mikotoba's daughter, Susato. Jings, you're the young man's daughter? And you didn't think to mention that afore? I do apologize. I didn't think that was necessary. Anyway, hey, well, you'd best take a seat then. May I offer you a cup of tea, perhaps? And did I forget to try one of these wee handcuff biscuits? Your father's influence is nothing short of amazing. I'm bitterly regretting not announcing who I was from the outset now. So then, what can I do for you, Hin? Well, we're currently investigating a case. It's one of your warders, you see. He's gone missing. Missing? That's right, it's surely been reported to you as well, being the prison governor. Oh, had no heard of nothing of the sort. There's no missing persons in my prison. Oh. But how can that be? It's Mr. Daily Vigil, your chief warder. Vigil? That's right. His wife came to us and asked us to investigate his disappearance. Let's get the part about him only going missing yesterday for now. Clearly that means something to him. Would you be so kind to tell us what you know, sir? Aye, of course. This grandfather clock is fitted with a terrifying blade that keeps dropping down. It's modeled on the guillotine, a French execution device. You might have heard of it. And yes, before you ask, it can chop. Heads off, you mean? Heavens no, carrots and parsnips and so forth. Oh. If you place a large carrot at the bottom there in the morn, by evening it'll have cut clean in two. Okay, so it's very dull, is what you're saying. Well, the blade must have almost indescribable edge on it then. Must have an almost indescribable edge on it then. I suppose these are all former governors of Barclay Prison, are they? Either that, or former inmates who the governor has sent to the gallows. Oh dear. They all have such severe expressions that I really couldn't deny either possibility. Especially the one on the extreme right. His expression goes beyond severe into a whole new territory. That one's me. Terribly sorry, sir. It is a prerequisite of the job, perhaps. Having a severe expression, I mean. Of course, it's not. Although it is taken into consideration. A lot. An axe, a hunting rifle, and 4 pairs of handcuffs. That's a daunting collection. Oh, there's a story behind every one of those. You mean... the rifle was a famous killer's murder weapon, and the axe was wielded by an infamous executioner. And the handcuffs were once used to immobilize a fierce 4-legged beast when it was arrested. Like the Hound. I think you're in the realms of fantasy now, Mr. Naruhodo. Not those kinds of stories, Jimmy. That axe was the one I used to chop down the cherry tree at my house. Mrs. Caden was best pleased. Was there some other character in Ace Attorney who had the comb switchblade? I don't remember. There might have been. That's obviously not a comb switchblade, it's just a comb, but... Ha. And the cuffs on the left are the ones I caught my first burglar with back when I was a bobby. The stories were a little different to those you imagined, I think, weren't they? Yes, to my relief, and in some small way, my disappointment. I never had expected to find a parrot in a prison. Oh, Rhinosuke's saying it's a parrot. It must be the governor's pet. Given where we are, it's hard not to see the poor creature is a prisoner. Let me out! Then they kill me. Ah. Has the bird learnt to mimic the plaintive cries of the inmates in the cells? Oot, no. He was one of 3 siblings, you see. And he still calls Oot the names of 2 brothers like that all the time. Right. Let me out. Then they kill me. Aye, I hear ya, laddie. You want your dinner, eh? Then they do it? That deer has been staring at me for a while now. It has? Those eyes are probably fake, Rhinosuke. The real eyes decompose quickly, so you can't really taxidermy them. The poor thing can't fit through the small hole in the wall, but it can't get its head back out again now either. It's giving me a woefully imploring look. It's not real, Mr. Naruhodo. It's stuffed. What? I mean, yes, of course it is. For a moment, I thought it was another assassin sneaking in via the ventilator. I don't like to say, but I think perhaps you need to reread The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. That's a very large cabinet full of papers, isn't it? It's labeled Inmate Register, look. And all the files are in alphabetical order. That's 50 years worth of records of Barclay inmates. Whether or not they left alive after serving their term. All the details about the crimes they committed are recorded in there. Like an epitaph, you might say. A record of crimes and punishments. How dispiriting. And yet, this man seems to be enjoying tea and biscuits as he talks about it. Okay, hopefully I got it all. We understand that Mr. Vigil is the chief warder here at the prison. Oi, that he was. Strong sense of responsibility and dedicated to the job. No doubt about it. He was a fine warder. Sorry, did you say was? Oi, he doesn't work here no more. He left the job. Oh my. When was this exactly? There's a question. When was it about? I cannot have been much less than 10 years ago now. Fake life. What? 10 years ago? He stopped working here 10 years ago. It's like, remember kids, time travel doesn't exist. Oi, as I mind it, you can. I have nae heard the fellow's name in all that time. What's a worry is he's gone missing though. But Mrs. Vigil made no mention of it. I think perhaps, Mr. Naruhodo, that his wife simply doesn't know. I think she's unaware that he no longer works here. Governor Clayton, can you tell us what happened? Why did Mr. Vigil give up his job here? That's important, is it? Yes, I believe it may be. What are you thinking, Mr. Naruhodo? I can't know for certain, but there may have been some chair squeaking noises that leaked into the background. So I have someone here that likes to drag chairs along the floor. And so it might be prudent of me to get another chair with wheels or something to try to preclude that, but it makes that very unpleasant timbred noise. Anyway. Continuing on. What are you thinking, Mr. Naruhodo? I can't help wondering, given that it was 10 years ago. Which was exactly when the professor was being held at this prison. That's exactly when the execution happened that didn't go right. I have resigned after that, and because of that. So Mr. Vigil actually resigned for the position of chief warder 10 years ago, you're telling us. What happened to make him leave the job? In actual fact, he did not leave the job willingly. He had no choice in the matter. You mean he was dismissed? It was, after a particular walk. Sorry, a walk? Oh, that's our word for it here. A walk to the gallows. Does that, like, riff from Berlioz's March to the Scaffold, like, get you a copyright claim if you play it? Well, I won't be testing it now because, I can't play that by ear, so... Oh, an execution. It's the job of the chief warder to prepare the gallows tree and oversee all executions, you see. Only Vigil did something unthinkable on that last walk. He was manning. What did he do? I'm sorry, but I cannot reveal that information. But I can tell you that it's very rare for Chief Warder to be relieved of his post. But why doesn't Mrs. Vigil know about it? She appears to be under the impression that her husband still works here. Because she can't know why he resigned. I wouldn't ken anything about that, I'm afraid. Can you perhaps answer one more question about the circumstances of his dismissal? And what would that be, Hen? That last execution that Mr. Vigil was responsible for overseeing. Was it by any chance the professor's? My thoughts exactly. I'm sorry, I really am. But I am not at liberty to answer that. Well, if it wasn't, he would have said it wasn't, so by not answering it, you answered it. I see. My father came to prison all those years ago in order to study forensic medicine. So who shot the professor then? Who was the real murderer? Who shot that bullet? Okay, but anyway. But you seem to have been well acquainted. The dead room, the prison, and the cemetery have a lot to do with one another. After all, they need fresh corpses for forensic research. You can? Yes, I can imagine. The advancement of medical science isn't always particularly palatable. Your father worked in the laboratory just on the far side of the graveyard. In the basement of Satan's Sinners. It's still in use today. Saint Sinners. That's come up before, I'm sure. Yes, that's right. We've been there. Mikotopa and I oft used to ride in a carriage together and negotiate terms. For more fresh material, I suppose. Aye, and we used to sit in here for hours to gab on about dissection and all sorts. Oh, it makes me back. Over a pot of tea and a plate of cuff biscuits, of course. How charming. He was a good fellow, your father. Reliable and dead set on his work. But I'm afraid I'll never understand you Japanese. Because of Genshin Asogi, I suppose. Well, I cannot tell you anything else. Thank you so much for your time, Governor. Oh, one moment before you're away, Hin. I'm sure I have it here somewhere. Oh, found it. Here, take this as we souvenir for your visit to the prison. What is it? That's Vigil's dismissal notice. It's 10 years old now, of course. So it's a pink slip that's not pink. Oh my, are you sure? Oi, it's no trouble at all. It's not no the original, mind. Chief Warder Daily Vigil was relieved of his post with immediate effect for having violated Clause 132 of Her Majesty's Code of Conduct for prisons. All rights of redundancy, pay, and other financial benefits are fully revoked. Reason for dismissal: aiding and abetting the escape of this prison of convict blank prior to his execution. Details of this escape are still being investigated. Full cooperation with inquiries will be expected. Indications are that the jailbreak plot was conceived prior to the convict's incarceration. It's believed that the convict engaged in some sort of negotiation with prison staff in order to secure assistance. Full disclosure of information regarding these negotiations will be demanded. Thank you very much, Governor Clayton. Or Caden. For some reason, I just can't stand not putting an L in there. Well, in return... Actually, if that's like a Japanese romanization, it's Kaiden. Do me a favor and never come back here. That case is closed. Well, I think we ought to return to Baker Street for the time being. Yes, I agree. We need to report back to Mr. Sholmes with what we found out about Vigil. What would we tell Mrs. Vigil, I wonder? We're back! Hello, you two. Oh. Irish's voice sounds like this. I thought you'd be back before long, so I baked some scones for us all. Those are hard. I thought you'd be back before long, so I baked... Ah, so that's what the delicious smell is. Greetings, my dear fellows. You've returned a good deal sooner than I was anticipating. Hello, Mr. Sholmes. Hello, Mr. Sholmes. Say nothing, your thoughts are written all over your faces in any case. It turns out that it may have been advisable to test my Care Color Restoration Tonic before application. Oh my. Pray tell me, what is your warder friend? What of our warder friend? Have you garnered some new information? Yes, something very surprising, in fact. Though it's not a patch on your hair, to be honest. It most certainly isn't, but still, we discovered that... Sholmes! Drop everything, Sholmes. This is more important. Gina. I can't believe it. What's happened? Clearly a very grave matter indeed. For Miss Lestrade made no mention of my hair whatsoever. It's the boss. What do you mean? Inspector Gregson? He disappeared? The boss is... He's dead. Well, this is kind of like if, in the mainline Ace Attorney, Gumshoe was murdered. That's what the equivalent of this is. You would not expect it, would you? Well, I guess you're the boss now, Gina. What? They just found his body, shot with a pistol. What? But Inspector Gregson, he was murdered? No, not Gregsy. Come in, my dear girl. Tell us the whole story. That was pretty much it, right? You got shot. Are you serious, Gina? Inspector Gregson he was really shot? I don't know much about what happened myself yet. They're still in there, investigating the scene. Where did this take place? A little rented room in a building full of flats on Fresno Street. The outskirts of town, nowhere near his home. He is perhaps investigating a case then. The thing is, no one at the yard knows nothing about no case around there. Oh, how strange. Vigil. The boss was no good, so good to me. I know I ain't up to much yet, but one day I was gonna show him. I become a proper detective. Guinea. So who did this? Do you have any idea who the culprit is? They got him already. Already? They've caught the shooter so soon? Well, it's definitely gonna be the wrong person. A witness reported something was going on and the boys got straight down there and took care of it. Who? What awful person did this? I still can't believe it myself. Gina? Okay, who could this be? Gina has to know who this person is. Who does Gina know? He's here. He's here. She's here. Gina doesn't know him. Gina doesn't know him. Gina. They wouldn't arrest him, would they? They wouldn't arrest him, would they? I don't think Gina knows that person. Yeah, Gina doesn't know any of these people that aren't here. Huh. Well, I guess I'll be surprised then. It was the Reaper. They arrested Van Zykes. Really? Or it was Kazuma? So is it Van Zykes or Kazuma? Though wait a minute, you don't mean they arrested Lord Van Zykes for it? That's right. The Reaper bloke's gone. And shot the boss. Lord Strongheart had it out for somebody. This is his revenge, it appears. It's looking more like a final boss every day. Lord Van Zykes. Are you quite sure, Miss Lestrade? Is Barack Van Zykes the police have arrested? It's Barack. I saw him with my own eyes in the interview room at the yard. I don't believe it. But there were witnesses, and they're all saying it was him. So you mean there were actually multiple witnesses? They heard the gunshot, apparently. And when our lot got to the scene, there was only the boss and Reaper bloke in the room. And that Reaper bloke. But there's no way Lord Van Zykes would have taken Gregson's life. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it either. Thank you for informing us, Miss Lestrade. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to pay me anything. So for me, this is useless. This really is the most terrible news. I'm dreadfully sorry. What are you saying sorry for? You didn't do nothing. Well, anyway, I'm taking a cab over to the scene right now. Please come and all as soon as you can. You've got to help. Help what? Lord Van Zykes? I mean, you're not going to bring Gregson back from the dead. It's a detective's lot to appear wherever some sinister plot has unfolded. Little wonder we all look haggard. Sometimes these things are almost too much for the nerves. Mr. Sholmes? What use is there in being a great detective if I fail to see something like this coming, How could I let this happen to Gregson? To Gregson! Mr. Naruhodo, I shall leave at once to begin my investigations. Of course, yes. We will too. It would be helpful if you could talk to Mr. Reaper and see what you can glean. I'm sure you are intending to do so anyway. Until later, then. Inspector Gregson dead, and Lord Van Zykes arrested. Bruno, Susie, I've called you a handsome. It's waiting outside. Thanks, Iris. Shall we, Miss Usato? Yes. Forget about eating scones, apparently. Room on Fresno Street. Did we see the outside of this place at some point in the past? This really is an out-of-the-way part of London. I doubt many people find their way down this back street. So this dust-ridden, rented old room is where it happened then? So this is where poor Inspector Gregson lost his life. Yes, and the police are already hard at work investigating, it seems. I don't see Mr. Sholmes anywhere, though. Perhaps his investigations have taken him elsewhere. What do you think you're doing there? Every one of them drawers gotta be taken right out so you can look underneath and all. I want the space above the ceiling checked, and don't forget to look inside the chimney stack, too. Blimey, ain't you lot never gone over an house looking for dough when the owners are out of town? Gina's obviously got some unique investigative techniques she wants everyone to adopt. Oh, so you've turned up at last. Mind you, I ain't been here long myself. Hello again, Gina. Sholmes, and only just left. You're lucky you missed that. You went prancing around in here pointing at stuff and flicking that out of isn't then just scarpered. Oh, he's finished. He gets investigating already, you mean? Yeah. He didn't stop to say nothing to no one. Not even me. Gina, would you mind if we investigated too? Listen, Odo. You're a lawyer, right? Yes. Why? Well, you're not thinking of trying to help the Reaper bloke, are you? Oh, poor Gina. She's never going to forget, is she? That trial will haunt her forever. Gina, if you don't mind me saying, if Lord Van Zykes really is responsible for this crime, he will be duly and fairly judged in court. I suppose you're right, yeah. Go on then, Odo, get investigating. I want to know the truth about what really happened here. Thank you, Gina. Gina, what was Inspector Gregson doing here in the first place? That's what I want to know. It's what, half a year since I got out of the clink? That's when I decided to give up my diving and become a detective instead. Yes, Mr. Shelms twisted the inspector's arm to agree to take you in as an apprentice, didn't he? Something like that, I think. Anyway, the point is, I didn't really know much about the boss till then. What it turns out is a bit of a legend at the yard. Goodness, really? They say he managed to solve some really tricky case just like that. He did. Yep, and ever since then, he started going out on all sorts of investigations, but always on his own. No one else at the yard even knows what half the cases he's working on are, apparently. That's not how it's supposed to work, is it? So what was the legendary inspector doing in a dingy little room like this? I know and had a lot of respect for the Reaper and all, and look where that landed him. Respect for the Reaper? In what way? I heard him say as such. I take my hat off to that fellow, were his words. Not how the general public feels, is it? Most people are terrified of the Reaper. Yeah, the boss said that that's exactly why he's respected the bloke. I didn't realize Gregson held the Reaper in quite such high regard. He said something else to me and all, but I didn't need to worry about the Reaper, because he only goes after people what are bad. I did kind of set my mind at ease when he said that. Right. People that are bad and Japanese people. What is this place then? Does anyone live here? Apparently it's being rented by someone called Hoogbone. Or Hoogboon. It's sort of here today, gone tomorrow name, that, isn't it? Yeah, is what we call an unidentified person. We haven't been able to get in touch with them. Oh. I see. Well, judging from appearances, I'd have to say this place hasn't been lived in for a long time, if ever. Right, all the lads from the yard piled down to get stuck into the investigation. But there's so little here, no one knew what to do with themselves. I do wonder. Yes, Mrs. Sato? Well, could it be that this Hugmoon is in fact Inspector Gregson himself? What? How could that be? Well, if he was investigating on his own, it's quite possible that this was in fact some kind of secret office of his. I never even considered that. Nice work, Suze. We're actually following a line of inquiry like that ourselves. You are? If you look around the room, you'll see there's a few things that hint at it. We should really investigate this place in detail. I see, that's where the poor inspector was found, over there. Yeah, that's right. They said it was a single bullet what did him in. Apparently, the bullet went right through him and struck that candle tree on the wall. Ah yes, it's blown one of the candles apart completely. And the gun used is there on the floor. It's the Reaper's in it, no denying that. What, really? How do you know that? Take it easy. I don't know what to do with myself when you stare at me with these big wide eyes. Not touching that. I was only saying what I'd heard. I don't know much about guns myself. But there is some bigwig lawman or whatever who said so. Why don't you ask him? A bigwig lawman, is it? Anyway, Fresno Street runs along under that window there. There are some street sellers just outside who heard the gunshot. Oh, but I don't recall seeing anybody outside. Yeah, they've all been taken down to the yard for questioning, that's why. We're talking about the yard's legendary inspector here, after all. They'll be getting a grillin'. Do you think we might be able to speak with those street sellers ourselves? I doubt it. The lads on the yard will just want to know what you're stupid for, and you'll be up for a grillin' and all. So we can't interview the witnesses then. Shame. An empty fireplace makes a room feel even colder than it would be otherwise, doesn't it? It's thick with dust, look. I think it would be fair to say it hasn't been used in a very long time. In other words, whoever lived in this room must have been extremely hardy in cold weather. Or nobody lived here at all, and merely visited when the occasion arose. I wouldn't like to say which is more likely. No, that's right. It's one or the other. Oh, it's a photograph stand. I suppose it must be a picture of one of Inspector Gregson's family members. Ah. What's the matter? Your eyes look like they're about to pop out of your head. They are, look! Mr. Naruhodo, quickly! An affair? Why do I feel like this woman is familiar somehow? Of course she's familiar. We met her only this morning. Ah. It's... Mrs. Vigil. This makes no sense. Why would there be a picture of Mrs. Vigil in here? To be frank, I don't think I've ever been more stumped. I'm sorry to say, I have no idea either. Okay, you can't flip it over or anything. Yeah, it's either like Gregson's sister or something, or... something... Tristy's going on there. This looks like some sort of notice board or something. And it's absolutely covered in scraps of paper. Ah, Mr. Naruhodo, look. This, you mean? It's an autopsy report, isn't it? And these are case notes here, the details of prison inmates. Yes, in fact, they're all the sort of documents that only a detective could normally acquire. What on earth went on in this room? Some old newspaper cuttings. Ah, and this one here. Ah yes, the advertisement, you mean. To the Red-Headed League. But why? What's that doing here? Whoever occupied this room was clearly interested in it for some reason. Excuse me. Oh, Inspector. Oh, sir. Poor man, he can't possibly be able to focus on investigating when he's so upset. Excuse me. Sorry, sir. Can't see a thing, sir. Too many tears, sir. Right, perhaps I'd better leave you to your work then. It's hard to get in on the gun. This is presumably the murder weapon then. Oh my, is it real? I suppose. I think so. Guns are so rare in Japan, I really know very little about them. You picked one up once. It's very simple, Ryonosuke. See, this thing here, this is the hammer, and this is the trigger. In order to fire it, you have to bring the hammer down on the back of the cartridge. So to do that, you pull the hammer back so it can come back down, and then you pull the trigger and that releases the hammer so it comes back in. Pulling the hammer back cocks the gun. Pulling the trigger shoots the gun. This thing here and that thing, no. I get too. It's like, start going into a gun safety course. Always point the gun at the ground. When moving from the place where you're loading to the place where you're shooting. There's one way to know for sure, Mr. Naruhodo. Fire a shot. No, it's a very bad way to know. Better way is to open the thing up and look at the bullets and No. If I did that, I'd be looking for a skilled lawyer to represent me in court. Slightly safer just to ask someone who might know, I think. Oops. Examine the trigger. I suppose this must have been the murder weapon. Oh my. Is it real, I suppose? I think so. Guns are so rare in Japan, I really know very little about them. Perhaps someone more familiar with firearms could shed a light on things here. Oh, we have to ask somebody about the gun? Great. Yeah, they got the aim thing on there. Oh, what's this? It would appear to be a little model policeman. It's rather charming, isn't it? In a way. Seeing as it's on the floor here, do you think it belongs to Inspector Gregson? It's a little hard to imagine Lord Van Zykes playing with something like this. It's only about 8 centimeters tall. It could have fallen out of somebody's pocket, I suppose. I think we should record it as evidence, just in case. Yeah, I agree. It is rather delightful after all. In a way. Helmet has this charming policeman appears to have been a little worse for wear. I'm not convinced about the charming part, but yes, you're right. The head part looks like it's been fairly heavily manhandled. Almost as if somebody has enjoyed twisting it around and around for fun. Shall we try twisting it around and around too, for fun? Oh, what's that? It appears to be some sort of key. But it's tiny though. It couldn't be a key for a door. Not that size. So what is it for, I wonder? Model of a British policeman found at the scene of the crime in Fresno Street. Giving a twist causes a key-like shaft to pop out from the base. Ever since we came in here, I can't take my eyes off this thing. Oh, funnily enough, neither can I. It's a hairpiece, isn't it? It is. A bright red hairpiece. I suppose the fact that it's right there next to where the body was found means we have to accept that Inspector Gregson wore wigs. Does it? And in such a flame-colored red, too. Yes, that's a color we've come across very recently elsewhere, isn't it? Exactly. This is a vital clue, I'm sure of it. Everything is relevant, isn't it? Somehow. I've always wondered what the underside of a hairpiece looks like. That doesn't surprise me at all, Mr. Naruhodo. You always want to see what lies beneath, don't you? I'm not sure that's quite how I put it. You must have to use lots of bird lime to keep it in place on your head. So it doesn't get blown off in a gust of wind, I mean. That might be a little inconvenient when you wanted to take it off again, don't you think? That was just goofy dialogue, wasn't it? Blood. So I suppose this is where the victim... That's right, the rope is laid around the body to show exactly how it was found. For Inspector Grayson himself has already been taken away. And would probably be under Dr. Syed's scalpel by now, if not for what happened last week. From the shape of the rope, it would appear that the inspector was curled up in a ball. Are you feeling alright, Mr. Naruhodo? No, I'm just getting flashbacks of when I was curled up inside a wardrobe. You look like you've just seen a ghost. I know it's just a rope, but, well, it conjures up quite terrifying images, that's all. Especially with that blood stain next to it. Oh, I do understand. In some ways, what we picture in our minds can be even worse than reality. Susato-san is so strong, though. She's taking it far better than I am. Huh. The top of one of the candles in this candle holder has been completely blown off. Yes, there's wax splatter on the wall behind, look. I suppose if a bullet had hit it. It does seem likely that the bullet hit the candle, having first passed through the inspector's body. Now that wax on the wall looks like blood to me. The candle broom has been added to entered into the court record. I didn't really see what they were describing. It's like the one that got shot happened to be conveniently tall. I can't find anything out of place. Ah, there's some black marks here, look. Yes, they look like some sort of scorch marks. Or perhaps the bullet struck the candle here, do you think? It's only one candle that's been cracked in half, as it seems. Yes, I think you might be right. Firearms are rarely used by criminals in Japan. So I'm afraid I'm not particularly knowledgeable about them. You just have to burn down the other two, though. Excuse me. If you're looking down on us from the great beyond, Inspector, don't worry. We'll look after things at the yard. I've interrupted some deep thoughts there. Somebody's very haphazardly nailed these boards over the broken glass, haven't they? You couldn't even really call it a window anymore. Well, if you remember the window in Mr. Natsume's room, that was totally blocked up with bricks. This one does at least still let the... You could say nothing more about it. Mr. Natsume's, this is totally blocked up. This one does at least let in some light, so you could say... Oh. I'm starting to feel even more sorry for Mr. Natsume now. There he is, Lord Van Zeek's behind bars. So it's true, he really was arrested. He's sitting with his back to the wall, reading something. I don't think he's noticed us. Lord Van Zykes. Fancy meeting you here. The last place on Earth I'd like to be, with the last person on Earth I'd like to see. I couldn't very well not come. We heard what happened. That you, Inspector Gregson, was... Go home. This has nothing to do with you. But... Forgive me, Lord Van Zykes, but I must disagree. Inspector Gregson was very helpful to us on a number of occasions. We're indebted to him, at the very least. We owe it to him to find out the truth about his death. If you say so, You must help us with our investigation, please. There is really nothing I can tell you. That you were just reading the back of the cell there. What were you just reading at the back of the cell there? Was it something related to the case? This? The Yard isn't quite so cavalier with its information as to share case details with the suspect. This is a letter from an old acquaintance. Oh, who might that be? Someone you know, as it happens. Albert Harebrain. Of course, yes. I keep forgetting they went to the same university. It makes them automatically friends. And I would like to read my correspondence in peace. So let's get this over with, shall we? What is it you want to know? Strange. I mean, let's face it, Lord Van Zykes never minces his words. But they seem to have less bite than usual somehow. Can you at least tell us your side of the story, Lord Van Zykes? What happened? How much do you already know? I know that the inspector was shot dead in a small rented room on Fresno Street, and that you were found there by the police when they arrived on the scene and immediately arrested. We were told that there was nobody else in the room and that some witnesses heard the gunshot. Then you're well informed. And there's really nothing I can add. The truth is, I don't know what happened myself. But the gunshot, obviously you didn't fire the gun, did you? I'm not in the habit of shooting the people I work alongside. I also heard the noise, however, before I had a chance to investigate, I was apprehended by the arriving officers. So he doesn't actually know what happened. So he just walked in on dead Gregson, and then it was immediately arrested. Okay. If I might ask, what were you doing in that place to begin with? I don't need to answer that. Oh? After all, you're not representing me. He is going to need a lawyer, though. Shoot your shot. Who's going to be representing you in court, Lord Van Zykes? Anyone other than you, I should imagine. Ha. We just taught him. Would I be right in assuming that you have no representation as yet? Defense lawyers shy away from any trial involving the Reaper, as I'm sure you know. But this is different. In my case, in my career, of all the defendants I've prosecuted, only 19 have ever been acquitted. Out of 20 of them, 16 subsequently died in mysterious circumstances. Questions will be asked now. Surely not. I assure you, no defense lawyer will want to touch me with the end of a barge pole. But you didn't actually have anything to do with those people's deaths, did you? And Gregson wasn't found not guilty of anything while you were prosecuting him. It's been 10 years now that I've been known as the Reaper of the Bailey. Believe me, nobody wants to know the true identity of this killer more than I. However, it seems things may come to a head before I have the chance to uncover the truth about that. What does he mean by that? After the trial, Professor Harebrain was supposed to go straight back to Germany, I thought. It's a letter to inform me of his safe arrival at home. I arranged his passage by sea and rail. It's a relief, I must say. He should now be beyond the reaches of the Reaper. Because the Reaper doesn't follow people abroad, you mean? Yes, so it seems. Your stooped little Nipponese friend, for example. You told me he was keeping well in Japan when I inquired the other day. Yes, that's right. He's an author now, happily working in Tokyo. So Professor Harebrain is safely back in Germany now. He is. Again, it's like a stepping on a crack thing. Like, it has nothing to do. They all just happen to be really bad, and so they get caught up with the bad crowd that kills people. It's not because, if anything, to do with Britain being in and outside of Britain or the Reaper of the Bailey. So it appears our conversation has run dry. There was a 2-second silence, that's all. Well, in any event, if you'll excuse me now, I wouldn't like to detain you. I was wondering, Lord Van Zykes, if you'd like, I'd be happy to advocate for you. You trust me, do you? Yes. I've heard you speak many times in court. I've seen how you treat people. So I'm quite sure that you would never have taken another's life. It's just my feelings can't be used as evidence in a court of law, sadly. It's a very gracious offer, however. I trust no one. What? Not the police, not the judiciary, and not you Nipponese. But please, I have no intention of engaging your services. You shake your fist at plot, Van Zykes. But plot will have its way with you. You shake your fist in vain. The chasm between us is just too wide and too deep, it seems. That sounds like pop music lyrics. I'd appreciate it if you don't visit again. Oh, you'll be back. When neither of us will waste any more time. Perhaps we need to dig a little deeper and find out more about Lord Van Zykes and what happened to Inspector Gregson. Okay, got them all. Anything to present here? Gina, what do you make of this? What is that, evidence? Working something out about what happened, have you? Oh, no, not exactly. I ain't been long enough in the job to get all this deducting business yet. But I swear I'm gonna get the person what did this to the boss. It's like, I wonder if there's something we could present to Van Zykes. We didn't have the present option, so. Huh. Oh, look, we have an opportunity here now while the governor is away. Mr. Naruhodo, you could be imprisoned here if you were caught. That's a good point. Perhaps not then. Oh, okay. Oh. This updated. You've made good time. I took an express train to London, back to London. I can hear Lord Strongheart, can you? Yes, it sounds as though he's talking to someone. Is everything in place? I had a private compartment on the train so I could check all the paperwork. It's Kazuma-sama. Why do you always walk in on me when I'm having an important conversation? Oh, your timing is impeccable. It is. No doubt you have heard the sickening news about the Reaper's latest devilry. Yes. I'm sure you don't believe it, of course, though, Lord Strongheart. That Lord Van Zykes could have done such a thing to Inspector Gregson. I don't think he's on Van Zykes' side. I believe only in the facts. And the facts in this case point to one thing. The unavoidable accusal of Lord Van Zykes for this crime. We must bring charges against the Reaper for taking the life of our legendary detective. Oh no, surely not. It's truly a regrettable situation. Tomorrow, the Forensic Science Symposium finally begins. At the very least, though, we can show the world our justice system's swift and equitable processes. So does that mean the trial is tomorrow? Precisely. In fact, this is a fine opportunity for introductions. Kazuma. Oh, but of course, you're already acquainted, aren't you? Mr. Asogi here will be present at tomorrow's proceedings. Leading the prosecution. Wait. So, silly boss prosecutor. Prepare to go down, Warunosuke. What? Kazuma. As I'm sure you're aware, he's a very capable practitioner of law. Kazuma-sama, a prosecutor. I'm sure you can imagine that tomorrow's trial will be closely followed all over London. In fact, no, people all over the Empire will be watching closely to see how it unfolds. There's no salvation for anyone in a trial prosecuted by the Reaper of the Bailey. And now, the Reaper himself must stand in the dock. Quite so, the public wants answers about the Reaper. And answers about how and why those who escaped conviction subsequently died mysterious deaths. But Lord Van Zykes firmly denies any involvement in such matters. And there have been thorough investigations that have proven him to be innocent. That's certainly true. Or it has been, at least. Until now. No, tomorrow's trial will mark the start of a new chapter in our country's great judicial history. So, Kazuma will be prosecuting tomorrow. That's right. But he's a defense lawyer, Lord Strongheart. Accomplished law practitioners cannot pick and choose their roles. And imagine what it will mean for the prosecution to know the strategies commonly employed by the defense. A devastating combination, wouldn't you agree? Absolutely. I've no doubt at all that Kazuma will be razor sharp as a prosecutor. But Kazuma-sama, there are surely many other highly skilled prosecutors in Great Britain. It was a personal request. I asked to be assigned to the trial. You asked for this, but why? It'll all become clear tomorrow. I'm guessing you intend to stand for the defense, don't you? Although, the Reaper appears to be turning down all offers for representation. I'm surprised such a personal request would have been upheld. It seems unprecedented. Quite exceptional, in fact. Is he making it up? You're quite right, Miss Mikotoba. Tomorrow's trial will be unprecedented and exceptional in every way. A way to hype it up. Last time, halfway through, Ryanosuke said, from here on out, it'll be much more intense. And it turned out it was just as intense as before, not much more intense. After all, the accused is one of Britain's greatest prosecutors, the pride of the Empire. It would be unwise to give the public a reason to perceive it as a judiciary closing rank. So that's why you're happy to let a foreigner handle the prosecution? Ryanosuke, let's see how your skills have been honed. After practicing law in this land for so many months. Kazuma, I don't understand why you're being so hostile to me now. This isn't going to end well, my friend. Oh yes, we noticed that there was a gun at the scene of Inspector Gregson's death. Do you know if it belongs to Lord Van Zykes? That would be a question for the lead detective investigating the scene. Well, the thing is, she wasn't sure, so she told me I should ask somebody higher up who might know. That's right, Mr. Naruhodo. Be direct. It's certainly a model that's issued to all personnel involved in law enforcement, yes. Which includes prosecutors, as I'm sure you can imagine. In that case, it could actually have belonged to the victim. No, Gregson has his gun on his person. What about Lord Van Zykes? He claims it's currently not in his possession. What? According to his story, he lost it. In short, it's more than a little suspicious. But just because the gun in question is the same type as the defendant's is no proof that it actually is. No, of course not. It's just suspicious. Nevertheless, the situation is grave for Lord Van Zykes. I'm sorry for all the worry I've caused you, but it'll be alright now. Has your memory completely returned? Yes, completely. I remember everything. Including what I was coming here to do. Right. Kazuma-sama? I can't tell you how happy I am to see you alive and well like this. But How did you come to be here in London when you were suffering from amnesia? It was the voice. This past year, I've been hearing it in my head constantly, saying the same thing over and over. Go to London. That is where your destiny awaits. It was that voice that guided me here to London. I'm so sorry for what's happened. Anyway, my memory might have returned to me. But there's something that won't return the way it was before. Huh? What do you mean? I'm a prosecutor now, so I'm sure our paths will cross again. Very soon. It doesn't look like we're going to glean much more here. Well, thank you very much, Lord of Strongheart. Remember, tomorrow's trial will go down in our Empire's history. There's much you could learn from the public gallery. Sorry to have taken up so much of your time. We'll see ourselves out.
Hold it!
Before you go, Ryanosuke. Oh, what is it, Kazuma? I just wanted to thank you. Kazuma-sama, what? You took my determination to heart and brought it with you over the ocean in my stead. And you carried out my role to perfection. I wouldn't say perfection. You always were intent on studying British law in order to change our own justice system. It was your dream, and Mr. Naruhodo didn't want that to die with you. Yes, but I had another purpose for coming here. Oh. I actually have a favor to ask. Which is? This trial I'll be prosecuting tomorrow. I'd like you to be there to see how it ends. Right in front of me. As the defense counsel. Why? What's this all about? I know you have what it takes. But Lord Van Sykes would never put his fate in my hands. On the contrary, he recognizes your talent. He does? It's not easy to see behind the facade sometimes. Here, have a look at this. Gregson, Clint, and Barak. Except Clint and Barak look very similar, so it's hard to tell which is which. That's Lord Van Sykes and Inspector Gregson. In a photograph that must have been taken some time ago by the look of it. And who's the third person? It was displayed very prominently in the detective's office. In Gregson's office, you mean? Yes, what I'm trying to say is, if you really think you can trust the Reaper, you might find that some straight talking makes him take a different view. Take it. I don't understand. Why are you giving me this? Just hurry, Ryanosuke! Visiting hours at the prison are almost over. What are you doing, Kazuma? He's being the main character from... not the main character. He's being the mover and shaker. He's making everything happen from behind. This story is not the story of Ryanosuke, it's the story of Kazuma. Okay. Lord Van Sykes is still reading that letter. He's been gone quite some time, though. Either he's an incredibly slow reader, or it's an incredibly long letter. Or we just couldn't think of we didn't bother to rig up a different pose. I might even be able to read English faster than he can. You talking schmack about me? I was intending to ignore you entirely. But I can't turn a deaf ear to such an insulting Nipponese. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think you'd hear that. I had the case notes brought to me in secret. I was reading them to pass the time. Yes, we heard that your trial is set for tomorrow. Which is none of your business. So, have you found a lawyer? How many times must I reiterate the same thing? This has nothing to do with you. In other words, no. You're just talking to Lord Strongheart, and the prosecution for your trial has been decided. I expect nothing less. I thought I'd have no idea who it is, though I have no idea who it is. It's going to be Kazuma Asogi. Asogi? That made the color drain from his face. Because I don't know if he knows. Ha! Well then. It seems like going to have to engage in conversation with you again after all. Lord Van Zykes, we came by this old photograph. Where did you get that? It was taken when I became a qualified prosecutor. It's almost unbelievable. I assumed it was long lost. Is the man on the left there? Yes, that's my brother, Clint. It had to be, really. Apparently, this picture was prominently displayed in Gregson's office. He had a deep respect for you, you know. Were you aware of that? Respect. That's nonsense. Now, I've heard someone attest to it very clearly. Inspector Gina Lestrade, no less. Well, maybe once, yes. There was a time things were like that. We were brothers in arms, jovially discussing the future of justice and other such lofty subject matter. But that was a nice glimpse of the past, I thank you. I feel as though I got a nice glimpse of the past then, too. There was a glimmer of light in his eyes, a brief twinkle, an insight into the true nature of this man known to all the known as the stone-cold reaper of the Bailey. 10 years ago, my older brother, who was the director of prosecutions at the time, was murdered. And the killer, as you know, was a visiting student from the Far East. Not a single day goes by when I don't curse the name Asogi. Genshin Asogi was Kazuma-sama's father. So what cruel twist of fate is this now? 10 years later, the man's son is to crucify me in some kangaroo court? I still don't understand why Lord Strongheart apprenticed Kazuma to you. It's what he does. No doubt he knew of the young man's true identity from the outset. Well, what could he have been hoping to achieve? And let's not forget that it was only 8 days ago that Kazuma recovered from his amnesia. Why would Lord Strongheart assign this trial to somebody like that? Asogi. That name is the very epitome of my bane. The bane that is you Nipponese. Right, your hatred for all is Japanese. He had only just been appointed as a prosecutor when it happened 10 years ago. My brother Clint, the director of prosecutions, was hunting down a mass murderer. The so-called professor. Assigned to the investigation as his partner was a certain visiting student dispatched from Scotland Yard. And that was Genshin Asogi. Exactly. I developed a deep respect for the man. He seemed noble-minded and chivalrous in the extreme to me. But none of us saw the true nature of the man. So I lost everything when it happened. My esteemed brother, the people I believed in, and any semblance of right prevailing over wrong. To avenge my brother, I prosecuted in Asogi's trial. I wouldn't ordinarily have been allowed, but I beleaguered the ascribed prosecutor until he consented. What do you mean by the ascribed prosecutor? Winston Payne? The man in charge of the Professor case inquiry, Lord Mael Strongheart. Wait, what? Lord Strongheart? He was a highly accomplished prosecutor, but he agreed to relinquish the trial to me and act as my advisor instead. Since that time, he's the one person whom I've felt indebted. I'm sure he must have seen your zeal for the case and recognized your potential as a prosecutor. Anyway, time passed, but then earlier this year, who should arrive in London but you? Ah, and of all things, as a lawyer. I felt your animosity the first time I ever faced you in the courtroom. Your obvious deep loathing for us Japanese. I kept telling myself it was illogical. But for so many years that hatred has festered inside me, I can no longer control it. And I can understand why, now I know the history. But in the same way that I've long felt the Nipponese to be the bane of my life, to Kazuma Asogi I am the bane of his, the Reaper who sent his father to the gallows. He's looking for revenge, and he intends to take it in the court tomorrow. Well, that's only like half right. Yes, but not in this way. Gregson's transfer to the Paris police prefecture had finally been arranged for the coming month. So just to clarify what I mean by that, I'm pretty sure he did come to prove that his father was innocent. Well, he didn't know what happened to his father. Once he did figure it out, he's going to show his father was innocent, is probably what he wants to do. And that would somewhat take revenge against Van Zykes. But he didn't intend to prosecute Van Zykes. Now, he did beg Strongheart to do so, which is kind of interesting. But I don't believe that it's because he wants to convict Van Zykes, especially if he wants Ryan Asuke to be the defense lawyer. Gregson's transferred to the Paris police prefecture, okay, whatever. But he'll never make it to France now. It's a tragedy. Oh yes, come to think of it, he did mention something about that, didn't he? I wonder, does it happen often? Being transferred internationally, I mean? It's the first time I've ever encountered it. Oh. The Paris police welcoming an English detective is almost inconceivable. I can't imagine what kind of magic Gregson must have worked to put that arrangement in place. It sounds like that mystery has even the Reaper perplexed. Oh, so that's also important. I'm afraid to say that we were very ignorant about Inspector Gregson's standing. We heard that he was considered something of a legend at Scotland Yard. Again, it was 10 years ago that he first made a name for himself, by uncovering the decisive piece of evidence that exposed the professor's identity. And it wasn't for Gregson's singular approach to the case, the discovery would never have been made. What sort of approach? After my brother's life was taken, the inspector pushed for a full autopsy. Oh my, 10 years ago. But why is that so surprising? Autopsy was considered a desecration of the body at the time, and rarely performed. My brother was of course a noble. That made the idea of it even more unthinkable. But something Gregson had dug up in his investigations made him determine it was necessary. His powerful conviction somehow influenced the House of Lords, and as a result, I could avenge my brother's death. So, you must have had great confidence in the inspector's abilities then. And it's even more inconceivable that you would have taken his life. Inspector Gregson. And Inspector Gregson was also wrong. It's like all these guys are going to turn out to be wrong. About the gun used to shoot the inspector that was found at the scene. Ah, yes, that's not mine. Really? Because common opinion seems to be that it is. What do you expect me to say to that? Can't they do fingerprints? Lord Strongheart informs us that you claim to have misplaced your firearm. And embarrassing as that is, I'm afraid it's true. Then did you lose it then? That, I don't know. Oh. I was issued with a revolver when I first became a prosecutor 10 years ago. I must have stowed it somewhere, I suppose. Or left it somewhere, perhaps. You have something in common with Lord Van Zykes, after all, Mr. Naruhodo. A talent for misplacing things. No, this has nothing to do with me. Don't drag me into it. Don't make the mistake of associating me with this Nipponese. Oh dear. The rift is very wide, isn't it? So it's not decisive evidence, clearly, but it doesn't look good, that's for sure. Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, that's the first time he's ever used my actual name. I've lost all confidence in my country's justice system. I don't trust the police, the judiciary, or lawyers. But there's still one thing I'm willing to believe in. What's that? That which you see in the eyes of another across the courtroom. A simple determination to know the truth. Lord Van Zykes. From the very first time we clashed in the Bailey almost a year ago now, I couldn't deny it, even though I dearly wished I could. Here is a loathsome Nipponese, who has absolute integrity as a lawyer, and tries to get off these horrible men, but doesn't know what he's getting into, so it's okay. There are only two other men I've known with the same look in their eyes. My brother, Clint, and Genshin Nasogi. The man he idolizes and the man who betrayed his trust in the most hideous way. When you showed me that photograph just now, it reminded me. You mean this photograph? Back when I was able to laugh. Oh no. I was free of the shackles of mistrust that plague me now. Well, it didn't make him laugh now, though. I looked to the future with hope. Since then, I've protected myself against betrayal by refusing to trust anyone. But at times, the mire into which I've sunk makes it almost impossible to breathe. I'm so sorry. So, Mr. Naruhodo, I want to believe in that look in your eyes. I need to believe in it. In tomorrow's trial, will you advocate for me? Of course I will. It will be an honor. I'm so pleased, Mr. Naruhodo. Then my life is in your hands. For Lord Van Zykes, that must have been an incredibly hard thing to ask, which is why I simply cannot let the man down. Tomorrow, in the Old Bailey, against my old friend, Kazuma. And I'll end it there.